All right, part 2 of our video. So if we look at this, we know that we are categorizing quadrilaterals at Unit 9, Lesson 2. And today we are representing various quadrilaterals based on their attributes. And I wrote in your daily assignments yesterday that it's really important to know what an attribute is. And I kind of like to relate them to character traits when we think of a trait and a way to describe our character. It's the same thing with an attribute. How can we describe our shape? So let's look at this vocab. So you really need to rely on this for a geometry unit right now. Go through these, really work on them, and make sure that you understand exactly what these attributes are. So let's talk about these vocab words really quick. So if I look at our first word, congruent. Congruent means it's the same size and of equal measure. So if I wanted to draw congruent lines, I might draw a square, because I know that a square, it doesn't even just have one set of congruent lines, it has two sets of congruent lines, okay? So that's congruency, when the sides or angles of the shape are the same size, they're equal in measure. We know that a polygon is a plane shape, which is a flat shape, it's not three-dimensional, and it's made of straight lines, so it can't be not closed. Okay, they had to be closed, like all of these shapes that we see, no open lines. A quadrilateral is a closed shape that has four straight sides. So there are a lot of shapes that are quadrilaterals. They're not just one. So for example, if we look back at my square, that's a four-sided shape. And it is a closed shape, so I know it's a quadrilateral, but that's just one of my quadrilaterals. So I could say that this is a square, and I can also say that that's a quadrilateral as well. So if we look down here, you can see that some of our attributes of shapes are our sides and our angles. And we know that we have 6 different quadrilaterals that we're looking at: trapezoid, parallelogram, rhombus, rectangle, and square. Okay? So there's a few words in here that you might not be too familiar with that I also want to talk about. So if I scoot this up a little, and you can see a right angle, I like to look at that as kind of like an L shape. We call that 90 degrees. So they're perpendicular to each other, and it looks like an L, a perfect L. And you usually will know because there will be an angle that looks like that, like a little square in the corner, showing that those two lines are perpendicular and straight. And then parallel lines, that's when there are two lines that will never meet. So if you think about kind of the opposite sides of the street, those two sidewalks that will never meet, those are two parallel lines, okay? So we can look at a rectangle, for example, and we can say, well, do we have right angles? Is that an attribute? Yeah, I see 1, 2, 3, 4 of those. I can say, ooh, are there parallel lines? Well, I can see that this is parallel to this because they will never ever meet if they kept going on. If you want to think about them going on forever and ever, they'll never meet. And same with the opposite sides. Okay, if I look at these two lines, and if I drew a line going up, those two opposite lines would never ever meet if they kept going. And then if I want to think about congruency, I could look at my rhombus here. Okay, and it says all sides are congruent. So let's see, that means that they are the same size and they're of equal measure. So if I look at a rhombus, I know that every single side is the same size and that they're all equal to each other. Okay, same thing with a square. They're all the same size and they're all equal to each other. So all those sides are congruent. Let's see, a parallelogram, it says that both pairs of opposite sides are congruent, so they're not all exactly the same, but I know that this is congruent to this side, and then this is congruent to this side, okay? So if you want to take a minute, you can pause the video, you can look back at these, really understand what they mean before you move on, or you can replay the video, okay? So let's move on to the input. So it says, circle all the shapes that could be called a rhombus. The most specific name for one of these shapes is rhombus. Star that shape, okay? So it says circle all the shapes that can be considered a rhombus. That's part one. And then it says the most specific name for one of these shapes is a rhombus. So that's when you look at it and you say, okay, I know these are all quadrilaterals. They all have 4 sides and 4 angles. They all have those attributes. But when I look at it, I know that one is a rhombus for certain reasons. So if we look, you want to go back to this page. You want to use this page. It says a rhombus has both pairs of opposite sides, all sides are congruent. All the sides are congruent. Okay, that means they're all equal. Well, does that look all equal? Is this shape, are they all equal? Yep, equal, 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 all of them, all 4 of them. So I'm going to put a check. What about B? Equal, 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 equal. Okay, they're all equal in length and size. I'm going to put a check. This, they're not. These 2 are equal to each other, but with a rhombus it says that all of them have to be. Okay, so that's not going to work. We know that's not going to work. Let's look at the next attribute for a rhombus. It says both pairs of opposite sides are parallel. Okay, so those are those lines like this, that are opposite from each other, even like this, that are going to go on forever. So if I look here, these opposite lines will go on forever not touching, and so would their other sides. These would go on without touching, so check, and so would their other sides. You already know that C is out, but if I kept going here, they're not parallel. Why? Because eventually these would meet here. So those are not parallel. Okay? So we know that it's A and B. And it wants us to star the shape that is the most specific name for a rhombus. So again, I'm going to look back at my resources that I have here. It says opposite angles are all equal as well. So this angle and this angle are equal. This angle and this angle are equal. I am looking at the photo, and I can see that these 2 match. Okay? And number 2, draw a quadrilateral with 4 right angles. List at least 2 other attributes. So the first thing that I think of is a square. Okay? I have 4 right angles right here. Let's look at my angles. Make sure that they're right, that they make that perfect L shape. Okay, and now it wants 2 other attributes. So I can look back at my resource and I know, okay, are all sides congruent? Are they all equal? All of them are equal in size and length. So all sides are congruent. And then my last one, are they parallel? Okay, let's see, are they parallel? So is this parallel to this? Will those ever meet? No, they never will, so it's parallel. These will never meet, so those are parallel. Okay, so opposite sides are parallel. Okay, perfect. Okay. So I'm going to leave you with that, but if you have any other questions, you know that you can email me, send me a picture, reach out to me anytime. All right? Okay, boys and girls, keep going. You're working really hard. I'm so proud of you all.